What you've seen is how to open and find Excel on your computer, and hopefully you've done that. And what we're looking at here is one view that you may get, which is this empty shell of Excel. And what we need to do is we need to start a new spreadsheet. In Excel terminology, that's called a new blank workbook. And so we're just going to select this icon right here. This is going to give us a perfectly clean new spreadsheet or workbook. Now that we have our first spreadsheet that we're looking at here, we'll talk a little bit about what a spreadsheet program is. So a spreadsheet program is all about data. Spreadsheets are used for entering data, manipulating and analyzing data, and displaying data of a whole bunch of different types. Spreadsheets are made up of cells. Each one of these little rectangles is referred to as a cell. They each have an address, and we'll talk about that reference system soon in this course. But many types of data can go into a cell like this. And we'll also be talking about the different kinds of data that we can be putting into spreadsheets and working with in Excel. For example, maybe we're working with financial data. Maybe we're working with grades if we're teachers or a student. Maybe we're scientists and we're working with scientific data. Maybe we're working with a mailing list, addresses. We can figure out ways to deal with all those kinds of data in Excel, and we'll be dealing with that soon. Now, another part of terminology here is notice that this is called Book 1. This is a workbook, and each book or workbook in Excel can have a spreadsheet or multiple spreadsheets. So if we go down here and look at Sheet 1, we see that we can add additional spreadsheets into our workbook as well. So what we may find, and what we'll be doing later in some files, is we may have one sheet that we can call data, and I just double-clicked on that to rename Sheet 1. We may have another sheet that gives us information about our data. And so maybe we have this second sheet within our workbook that's called information. We can rearrange these. Maybe we want the information to come before the data. All sorts of little things we can do about that. So we just saw that we can rename these sheets whatever we want, something that makes sense to us, information and data in this case. Something else we can and should do is make sure that we rename our file. You see that our Excel file is still just called Book 1 here. This is the generic default name that a new workbook will get. We need to make sure we save this as a file so that we know where to get it, and we name it something that makes sense to us. If we want to use a keyboard shortcut, and we'll be working with a lot of keyboard shortcuts in this class, on the Windows system we can hit F12 to save a file, and so I will just do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this file on my desktop for now. I'm going to name it something that makes sense to me. I'm going to name this Week 1 Excel, because that's what we're working on right now. You'll notice the file extension for an Excel file using newer versions is .xlsx. There are other file types, many other file types that Excel can work with as well. But we should always be working with an Excel file type, either .xlsx or .xls. As long as we have one of those, then we're going to be good. Click Save, and now our workbook is named the way we want it to be, and we know it's saved, and we'll just continue saving as we work to make sure we don't lose any of our work here. I mentioned I use a keyboard shortcut there. We can also just go about this through the File menu, where we can then click Save or Save As, and do the same thing using the Browse option. Browse to a location that we want. In this case, we're on the desktop, and naming the file whatever we want, and then clicking Save. So we are good to go. Now, I just pointed out that a place we might want to go to do that is in the File menu. If you're familiar with Office programs like Word or PowerPoint, Excel follows a very similar layout for its menus. We have a few menu tabs up here. We'll often be working in the Home tab, where we have a lot of features that'll be useful for us. We can do text formatting, changing fonts. We can be doing some sorting and working with data over here, but we also have specialized menus that we can use. For example, we may want to work specifically with data, where we want to be able to sort and filter very easily and know that all those tools are right there. We may want to insert a chart, and we'll be working with that quite a bit as well, and so we would find that under this Insert menu. And so by navigating these different pull-down menus, Home, Insert, and Data are some of the most important ones for us, and then looking around on the ribbon, as this is called, for the icons we want, that's how we're going to find a lot of our most important actions and commands in Excel. So Now we have a good overview. We've been oriented. We know what a spreadsheet is. We know some important terminology. We've done really critical data management things like naming our sheets, saving and naming our file. We're familiar with the menus. We're ready to move on and start working in Excel and learning more about how it works, entering data, and proceeding with the course.